All right, so Netflix is changing its movie strategy after huge losses. They're talking about the 200,000 subscriber loss that they had a month ago, and it is funny to me that these companies literally need to be basically kicked in the backside before they make any changes whatsoever. But it says, it seems as if the new era of Hollywood at Netflix has wound down to a close, while the feature film division of the streaming giant has put out a staggering amount of material over the last few years. The company fortunes have fallen on more fallow times lately. I've never heard that word before. Fallow?
Fallow.
Is that a word? Somebody in the chat will have to let me know.
I haven't come across that one in a while, but I think
that's a real word.
Fallow times. Yeah, it's just like it's not good.
And when the writer wrote that, he was like, yeah.
It's a light yellowish brown color.
Okay. Well, I don't know what that means.
Oh, I guess it's just that the land is
not green
dead,
anymore.
yeah.
Okay.
No more lush.
The green pastures have since dispersed.
Beautiful.
So it says,
putting your English major to good use.
With users leaving the former king of Streaming Mountain, king of the Streaming Mountain in droves in the wake of the emergence of multiple studio-owned services, customer dissatisfaction with rising prices, and content controversies. Multiple similar studio-owned services. So what they're saying is like there's too many streaming services to choose from now. There's Netflix, there's Amazon Prime, there's Hulu, there's Disney Plus, there's HBO Max, there's Paramount Plus, there's Peacock. There's literally 1,000 of them. I keep Netflix for like one or two things, but for the most part, it gets very little use from me. And I understand like a lot of people, like there's content controversies from both sides of the aisle. Yeah. There's people, the people probably more likely to watch this show would have issues with Cuties being on Netflix, and people who are less likely to watch this show had a problem with the recent Ricky Gervais and Dave Chappelle specials. But basically the idea here is that they need to employ a new process when they're picking the movies that they're going to talk about. And it says the company is hoping to engage viewers with a bigger, better, fewer strategy. In other words, the service will continue to make high-quality pictures with A-list talent, just not as many as in the past. So it's literally going to just turn into a regular movie studio that's just not releasing them in theaters.
They oversaturated.
Like they're about to... when they said that they're going to axe like vanity projects, it sounds like they're axing anything that has a lot of effort put into it because that requires more budget. Yep.
So it says Netflix co-chief Ted Sarandos explained the strategy to The Hollywood Reporter just a few days ago. We were struggling to out-monetize the market on little art films. That's my biggest problem here is they keep talking about that in here. It's like they're not making money on the little on the art house stuff that nobody's watching. Yeah. If you were to think of Netflix, you're going to think of Stranger Things, Ozark. What else do you think of when you think of Netflix?
Stranger Things.
That's really what I think.
Cuties.
The only one that people actually still care about.
Like, is the only one that seems to do very well. But the big budget stuff, like the Adam Project, did very well for the streaming service, and they mentioned that one in here. Right. But that one had big name actors attached to it. There's been so many that I've just like things on there that I scroll right through and just will never watch.
They've got endless mini series, so it's non-committal. Yeah. They can just kind of throw it out there.
And I don't really use it.
Yep, and those things never go past 3 seasons.
Yeah,
I actually steal someone's password to watch Netflix so I could watch the Ricky Gervais thing, and I kind of liked it. I didn't think it was that great.
No, me either. I was like, meh. It was.
I heard those jokes better from other comedians.
Yes.
You just got attacked by a stink bug.
Got him.
That was amazing.
Thank you. In other words, we don't expect to see any Netflix project, Stranger Things notwithstanding, to be duking it out with Disney Plus in terms of relative special effects budget, nor can we expect prestige projects along the lines of The Irishman to be on the menu for the time being. This tendency to do anything to attract talent and give them carte blanche is going away. They had to do that early on because they were struggling to get bigger name actors because they saw themselves as above doing Netflix stuff. Yeah. They saw that as like a demotion of their talent. This interestingly enough, in the skating industry, there was something similar that used to go on. Like you used to be looked down upon for putting out like internet content, like for putting that's hard to believe in the world we live in now. Yeah. But there was a time where you were expected to make like a video section once a year. And maybe like a promotional piece for like one of your sponsors, but making regular internet content was looked at as like really, really low brow.
That's
and
funny.
like I looked at that in like 2005 or 6. I was like, look, eventually DVDs are going to be gone. Eventually, no one's going to be watching stuff the way they're watching it. They're going to be watching it on, at the time it was YouTube.
Yep.
Now there's VOD services for that, or you can watch stuff on Instagram or any social media site. So I think that this was just their ability to like buy off those actors for like the Irishman, for like the Scorseses and the De Niro's, was because they wanted to establish themselves as a major player within the studio sector.
Yeah, for sure.
Which I think that they have since done.
Yeah.
Like I said, the Adam Project had Ryan Reynolds. Red Notice had Ryan Reynolds, Gal Gadot, and Gadot. Sorry, not good. It's not Godot, and it's not Gadot. It's
Isn't it Godot?
It's Gadot. You pronounce the T. She says so.
That's a hot take. I've never heard that.
I know.
I like it.
And
I
then
trust you.
so it got them. It got The Rock. It got
Right.
so now that they regularly get those actors, they don't have to be producing endless things all the time. Just focus on making good projects.
Yeah.
And-
They're gonna leave like the indie stuff to stuff like A24,
which is
that
what
puts out-
A24 is good at.
Yeah, and
right.
they're great
or
at it.
focus.
Yeah.
Like that's what they're good
I
at.
did see a commercial on YouTube. It came up a new Netflix movie that I was like, okay, this is interesting because it reminded me of like old '90s high concept movies. Man versus Bee. Did you see that?
No.
It's literally just a man.
No.
It's the guy who plays Mr. Bean. Remember
Yeah.
that guy.
Yep.
And maybe it's a mini series. It's a series or a movie, and he just has a problem with a bee throughout the whole thing. I'm like, that's hilarious. It makes me want to watch that.
But you can't put hundreds of millions of dollars into
this
projects
looks like a
that.
big budget.
Does it?
I mean, there's
Okay.
explosions. It might be a Michael Bay movie for all I know.
That's
I got Brett.
I like it already.
Yeah.
I want to
He's
see it.
Fighting
There's
a bee.
explosion. Just a bee. I mean,
So it says-
it's a narrative and then a bee.
As it moves forward, Netflix wants to focus on making bigger movies, making better movies, and releasing fewer than it previously did at the gluttonous pace. Because of the oversaturation, nobody wants to. It all runs together after a while. It
I
says,
mean, I feel like they might very well be bigger and
Thank you.
fewer, but they're not gonna be better because why would anything good happen?
Yep. But it says small movies are not going to go away, says one insider, but they could become more niche and cater to a passionate audience. It's already niche. Most of their smaller budget movies are
Small
already
movies literally means niche.
Yes, it
What?
says another insider concurs, saying that the output will be reduced, lessening the need for so many execs. That's a huge problem too. Is just an overabundance of executives, creative visions clashing at all times. That happens in even the smallest of businesses. And when it becomes to industries that are creative and output, it gets even harder to. We're going to be talking about that more in the Warner Brothers segment because of what they're doing with Todd Phillips and Toby Emmerich. It says they were overstaffed with executives, says the insider. Also, bigger doesn't necessarily mean more $150 million movies. Expect to see a more subtle change. Instead of making 2 movies for $10 million, as an example, the company will make 1 for $20. That makes perfect sense to me. Actually focus on it. Also means that the lame, overly hyper polarizing content will probably not make the cut if they actually are pivoting towards a business model. You would hope that if they go all in on stuff that I'm being wishful thinking here, but the goal would be like, if you're going to look, 5 years ago we make a bunch of weird projects that a lot of people don't like, fine, we've got the money to do it right now. When you're only making one project and it has to cost the amount that those 5 projects did, they can't take the risk on the story.
I mean, I find that Netflix stuff is actually worse on that front than other movies.
In what way? Oh, about the messaging?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
And also, I don't you're gonna disagree with me wholeheartedly on this, but I don't think that the wokeness is actually that common of something I encounter in movies, at least. Maybe it's just that you specifically are into certain genres of movies that have been affected way more by it than mine, or shows that I watch.
Maybe it also depends on what both your definitions of woke is and how you see it.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm always able to tell when they're trying to do something.
Yep. You can spot it.
Messaging, but
it's oddly enough far more common in network television now. It got really bad in network television between 2019 and 2020. In TV shows on other platforms, you have your pick of what you're watching, so you can I tend to filter it out. If I see something and it's in there, I just turn it off and go watch something else. Not even just because of that, but just because it's not interesting to me.
It also depends on how much is in it.
Yep.
Sometimes it's just a line.
I put up with a lot if I think it's still interesting.
Oh, for sure.
Which is most often the case. I'm surprised that you just turn it off.
It depends on
can
how
be
early.
good and still
I still like Sabrina. I watched that and I thought that was pretty ridiculous. The
seen
new
that.
one.
It,
I thought
it
that was
depends on
ridiculous.
how early in the movie it is, and what I found, in my opinion, is that it's not just that it's quote unquote woke. It's that those ideas and those themes are symptoms of bad writers, and my palate, at least for the stuff that I watch, doesn't lend itself to wanting to watch bad writing.
It just depends if they're allowing the ideology to push the narrative, or if it just happens to be there, as like kind of background
as a given,
noise.
which is sad. But
they point out here, they say the two top grossing movies that they've made are Red Notice and The Atom Project, both of which are gloriously devoid of any wokeness, but they're also like, the Atom Project is phenomenal. Red Notice is the most generic, by the number, like a lot of times you hear me praise like boring generic action movies as like great because you can kind of turn your brain off. This is somehow not a good version of that, where it's exactly like that, but it looks like it was made with like a paint by numbers action movie book. It doesn't really work. But
Right.
The Rock is kind of charismatic, and Ryan Reynolds is kind of charismatic, and Gal Gadot is very charismatic. So it's like I shouldn't say The Rock isn't very. The Rock is very charismatic in the right roles. Ryan Reynolds is very charismatic in the right roles. In this, they're playing like The Rock plays a weirdly a little bit off of like what he would normally play. Ryan Reynolds plays exactly what you'd expect him to play, and so it just isn't very interesting.
Yeah.
But they're not doing themselves any favors by making too many things and oversaturating the market. I think they should be making less stuff and just making it better. And also, they're cracking down on passwords. Did you see that?
I did. I don't understand how this is going to be enforceable.
Literally
It's
have
not
no
gonna
clue.
work.
I have no clue how
Surveillance.
they would do
They've
this.
defined what a household means, and now they're surveilling the amount of times they
It's
use the
very
passwords in that household.
non-inclusive that they're trying to tell other people what a household is.
Yeah,
Frankly,
right?
I'm a little bit offended.
Yeah.
It says,
This is a household.
This company has so far begun testing methods to curb password sharing in Peru, Costa Rica, and Chile. What did they do?
Again, why?
Why Chile, Costa Rica, and Peru? What did they do to you?
Maybe it's just there's smaller markets they can use like as test subjects.
Well, then they're testing
Great.
on. That's
not okay.
awful. That's just evil.
Yeah, this is Netflix version of Tuskegee.
Maybe they're actually just less interested in Netflix
Probably.
than us.
No, they seem mad down there. They seem upset.
They are? It's working?
Yeah.
Under the new policy initiative, subscribers in those countries are supposed to be subject to additional charges to add up to 2 sub-accounts located outside of their household. However, a new report from tech publication Rest of the World found that the early stages have been met with limited success. Rest of the World spoke with over a dozen Netflix subscribers in Peru who said that the messaging around the policy had been unclear and that not all users have been subject to the same policies. It does remind me of I don't know if you guys have ever tried to unsubscribe from Amazon Prime. It's like, you want to sign up for Amazon Prime?
They ask you, are you sure?
Like 4 times, and they hide the button up in the corner.
They
like,
send you a suicide hotline.
you want to subscribe? They're like, 1 click, you're done. They literally make your bank account appear out of thin air. They don't even need your credit card. They'll just figure it out. But if you want to unsubscribe, they're like, are you sure? Are you really sure? Is this your phone? Are you sure you're unsubscribed? That's kind of seems like what they're going to do here is they're going to make it really hard for them to know, are you in a 2-person household? Yes, no, maybe. And then you don't know what to answer.
Are you sure?
Are you sure?
They're going to have drones outside the windows counting people in the house.
I have 12 children and they all use Netflix.
Yep.
Perfect.
So
and it's all different houses, but they're all connected to the main house on the same property. Does that count?
They all have different dads, so they're all in different houses.
There you
Perfect.
go.
In general, most users reported feeling a lack of clarity around how Netflix defines a household. Again, that's problematic, man. In response, a Netflix representative told Newsweek that the company has been clear about the definition for years. Unfortunately, nobody knows what that means, so it's not actually clear. He says, quote, while we started working on page sharing over 18 months ago, we have been clear for 5 years that a Netflix account is for people who live together in a single household. A Netflix spokesperson told Newsweek, the millions of members who are actively sharing an account in these countries have been notified by email, but given the importance of the change, we are ramping up in-product notifications more slowly. We're pleased with the response to date. So is the idea that do they just guilt you into it? I better not log in from here. My dad's
just an
using
honor
it upstairs.
system?
Yeah, it's just
That's what it was.
I
to
solemnly
begin with.
swear that I will not watch Netflix in my apartment. I will go home to my parents' house to watch it. We're gonna do
Well,
that.
I'm sure that like with people's IP addresses,
Yeah.
it would be easy to tell.
And they'll just block it, right? If you have more than 2 or something. Just turn
somebody
it
in the
off.
comments might be able to
But
like.
you can have a VPN on
True.
when you're using
Yeah.
Netflix that lets you watch things that are available in other
True.
countries.
They're
The people
gonna
in
outlaw VPNs next.
the people in Peru just use VPNs just to
I don't
not
know
get
how
the
you-
annoying notifications about the household stuff.
Right.
Like they put them. Well, plus if you have a VPN and you use it, you can unlock content that's regional to different
Yeah.
areas.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Like for a long time, there were certain things that I would watch that was only available in like the UK
Right.
that you wouldn't be able to get here. So I just think it's like it's like with most laws, it feels unenforceable. Like the policy doesn't feel like something they can actually enforce.
They'll find
without,
a way.
They'll find a way.
They'll find a way.
But
When it comes to their money.
like I said, at the end, well, that's why I think that it's possible that they may end up like pivoting away if they're smart in an economic downturn to different. To maybe making more general content that's less niche, because we're no longer in an economy where you can just make whatever you want and subsidize it with your profits. Now they may have to focus on it for the good of the company.
Yeah.
So there's some super chats. There's at least one.
Waffle Sensei says Rodney Mullen was the greatest skateboarder ever, and his content is basically all internet content. Check it out, y'all.
Yep. It's one of those things where now the industry has shifted in skating that like most of it's online. Obviously, because that's the way you market everything these days.
Yeah.
But it was just a very unique time when everything where you, unless you were making it for full length videos, it was seen as somehow lowbrow that I railed against back then.
Did you want to like get in magazines too? Is that something?
Yeah, no, like I had
like
pictures.
Thrasher or-
I had in blading magazines, but
Oh,
I had pictures in magazines, but that was more like because that was once a month at the time, and
Right.
it became even less than that down the road.
Yeah.
That wasn't as much the focus, but you're skating every day. You're not shooting. Usually, if you're shooting for a magazine, that's picked out ahead of time, and
Right.
you go out on specific days. Stuff that's good to film isn't always necessarily the same thing as stuff that's good for photos.
Right.
There is such a thing as tricks for photo that don't translate as well to video,
funny.
depending on the right photographer. So it's a whole different process.
Yeah.
So
By the way, John Lee, who said that he works for that doctor, expert witness, he's like, do you want evidence? So yes, the answer is yes, I want evidence.
thanks for watching this clip, guys. If you want to see full episodes or follow us on social media, links are in the description below. Bye.
Bye.